The question from China, from Sita Devi, Didi.
Hare Krishna. Sita Devi ki jai.
She's asking, I wanted to serve Tulasi Devi better, but after transplanting her to another pot, she withered and disappeared day by day. What should I do to compensate for this offense?
It is the nature of a devotee to think of themselves as an offender. It's a peculiar thing. Find even Rupa Goswami and Sanatana Goswami, they present themselves that way to Mahaprabhu. And thematically, in many places, devotees feel like that. And that's part of Vaishnava culture. But those who aspire in the line, when they see that in another, they have some respect and appreciation for that. That, oh, they're engaged in Vaishnava culture. So who's presenting themselves as an offender, feeling those sentiments, that's a negative thing. And Srila Guru Maharaj says, negativity is the wealth of the Vaishnava, not arrogant, positive assertion. I'm this, I'm that, I've been doing this for so long. Never. They're always finding themselves in want. They have some hunger, some need, some necessity. They're feeling some absence. And so Guru Maharaj describes that as negativity, and he says that is the wealth of the Vaishnava. Because in this context, because we should say, preface our remarks by saying, in general New Age philosophy, philosophical thinking, the idea is like, negativity is bad, you stay away from, and focus on the positive. Give, positive affirmations to yourself, and which is basically humanistic sloganeering. Right? All this so-called self-love and things like that. Because they think at the other end is, low self-esteem. Beating yourself up, that kind of thing. They can only see negativity in that way. But Guru Maharaj, he equates negativity with humility. And actually, on this point, sometimes I like to remind the Chinese people that if you think of what are the values that have, from ancient Chinese culture, that have maintained until this day, anyone who knows anything remotely about China would say oh, you mean sincerity, humility? These are good things. And they've been a part of this culture. They're in the cultural DNA of China is sincerity and humility. They never thought that being humble was a bad thing. Someone once thought like that for a while. Because of our humility, China's being exploited by, whatever. But actually, the full cycle came and they realized, actually, this is a great quality. Gurudev always preaching Mahaprabhu's Trinadapi, Sunichena, Toro. It's part of Mahaprabhu's teachings. Humility, tolerance, offering respect to others. I remember when we were in Mexico with Srila Gurudev, Ashram Maharaj and his team, they arranged this beautiful theater. And in that theater, it was so advanced. Everyone in the audience had a headset for simultaneous translation. So Bhuvan Pavan Prabhu, who's expert, his father was a translator for the Brazilian government. Pardon me? Bhuvan Mohan. He used to be Bhakti Vilas Parbat. He left the world as Bhakti Vilas Tapashi. But anyway, he's like had translator in his DNA. Anyway, he was translating in Spanish, and it's feeding into a headset, and there's all these people, as they say, like the higher section of society, they're watching, and there was this play done by children. You know, and usually, like, if the children do a play, you know it's not going to be perfect, but it's like charming, right? You go, oh, you know, and you're like smiling, and you see they're trying to do something. Like, oh, maybe it's Krishna and Kaliya, it's some pastime. But in this case, I couldn't figure out what this play was about. You know, it's like watching, and I mean, like, not even a clue. And then, and everyone else, and you could see, like, this isn't your usual cute little kids, something's wrong here. Like, you know. And Gurudev's watching this, and it's reaching the point of, shall we say, just for the sake of example, of being intolerable. I want to use that word. You know? So anyway, like, it goes on, it never seems to end, you can't figure out what's going on, then finally it finishes, and I'm going like, what is Maharaj going to say to these people? And Gurudev, being perfect, reader of situations and of people and their emotions, and he turns to them and he says, I am so impressed and happy to see that you are all following Mahaprabhu's teachings. And we're going, they are? Like, how? And what he meant was like, he said, this was intolerable. He said, but why are they doing this? But you're tolerating, so you're following Mahaprabhu's teachings? But I want to explain something to you. He said, they are doing this because of their love for me. That's why they're doing this. So you please forgive any discrepancy, and I'm admiring your toleration, but understand, they're doing this out of their love and affection for me. That's why this is being done. So with this explanation, Srila Gurudev, he actually turned an awkward situation into like a divine situation, and simultaneously captured everyone in that crowd. But he's saying, but by your following this principle of being, you know, tolerating what is otherwise intolerable, and then with humility, Guru said, so it's a negativity, but negativity with power. Just like the electrical current. Is Jyoti here? No, all right, anyway. But maybe disciples of Jyoti are here who know you have like positive and negative current and the electrical thing. Like, that's what makes it work. It has to be positive and negative. So they work together. When they work together, it's very powerful. Negative has its thing, but when they come together, that's the greatest power. So in this case, Guru Maharaj is saying, Krishna is the supreme positive. The devotee is engaged in the culture of negativity, saying, Krishna's so great, he's so wonderful, his devotees, and I am tiny, insignificant, small soul, you know, who has no value of her own independently, but that puts me in the need of the shelter of Krishna and his devotees, and I hope this is a sincere expression of my heart. Krishna's devotee, where every day we're worshiping Tulsi Devi. Brindai Tulasi Devi Priyai Kesavashacha. Krishna Bhakti Pradi Devi Satyavachai Namo Namo. We're saying, you can give devotion to Krishna. So we want to revere you and care for you. Our seva to you will be, you know, watering, pruning, taking care, singing the Tulsi, the praise of Tulsi Devi. Krishna only accepts offering with Tulsi Devi. But then sometimes, particularly in the beginning stages, devotees wonder, like, how to do this. Oh, I did something wrong. Tulsi Devi left, or, you know, is in a deplorable condition. And once Prabhupada, many things are said. I'm not the expert on caring for Tulsi Devi. As a Krishna Priya of Sokel, she's expert. But sometimes when they would ask Prabhupada, he would say, how do you care for a plant? And then they were like, oh, and he'd say, what would you do if you had some plant in your house? There's a particular way you would care for that. You should care for it in that way, but added with devotional mood, some praise, and there's some specific things about like not to pick her leaves on Ekadashi, things devotees know. But he's saying, but otherwise, common sense is, and that reminds me of Sureshwari's husband, Brisakapi, and I just feel I have such a sweet devotee and always helped me in the promotion of Guru Maharaj under all circumstances. But he was living in an apartment, a furnished apartment, for like 6 months. It means you get everything, couch, furniture, everything. And there were also plants there. So he watered them religiously for 6 months until one day one of the lease owner was visiting his apartment, and she said to him, these are artificial plants, right? Because he thought he was doing it like a real good job. So for 6 months he was watering artificial tree, artificial plant, And she said, they're not real, right? So that's on the other side. But Guru Maharaj, many times he would say, I take my stand on common sense. So you would find out, like, what does this plant need? How often, what's too little water? What's too much water? What's too little heat? What's too much? How much sun does it need? You find those things out. Right? Part of devotional service is using your intelligence. Right? We use our speech, our hearing, everything. So also our mind, our intelligence. So when some service has come to you, you use your intelligence how to do that service. So I understand her heart. She feels some painfulness, like, oh, I've offended, if we offend the devotees of the Lord, what can help us? But in the case of Tulsi Devi, it'll make us more mindful. And that will lead us to find, well, then how do you properly care for them? First thing Prabhupada is saying, the way you would care for a plant, which she's appearing in that form. And then, not now, but some devotees who have that seva, they can tell her some more specific things about that. But I would say try again. Either with the seeds from Tulsi Devi or a baby Tulsi Devi plant, and try. We know also she thrives better in some environments than others, and so different things we have to consider. But I remember in our New York temple, in the ISKCON days, it's like Moscow, freezing cold there, but they would make a little greenhouse, otherwise a hothouse, and found specific lights that were good, black light, this light, that light. You find out, by using your intelligence in service. So that she feels something. These words may not help her feel better, but that she feels something, I can say as observer, is a good thing. If you did not feel anything, that would be sad. But that you feel something means it's the negative indicator of positive achievement. So that's why Guru Maharaj said, negativity is the wealth of the devotee. That I am in want, I am an offender, I have some necessity. Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu, he presents Sri Chaitanya Charitamritam, the greatest book spiritual book of all time, all space, all creations. But he says in the beginning, by way of introducing himself, Jagai madhai hoite muise papishta purishe rakita hoite muise lagishta. I'm more sinful than Jagai and Madhai. I'm lower than the worm in the stool. If you hear my name, you'll be polluted. If you chant my name, you'll lose all your piety. That's how he's introducing himself to the readers. And then at the same time he said, but there would be some offense on my part to my superiors if I didn't say that I'm actually the beneficiary of the grace of Nityananda Prabhu. As fallen as I am, as unqualified as I am, Nityananda Prabhu, what do you say? Preme Mata Nityananda Kripa Avatar. He's the Kripa Avatar. He's the mercy avatar. He, how do you say? He blessed me. Like the people that are always asking for Ashirvad, blessings. Sometimes they would call Gurudev, call him up on the phone and say, Maharaj, will you give me your blessings? And Gurudev says, oh, Krishna bless you, Guru Maharaj bless you. And the same person would call like 3 days later, 5 days later, Maharaj, can you give me your blessings? And Gurudev said, what did you do with the blessings I gave last week? Aren't they still good? They're still working, or you ran out of blessings, or but Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami Prabhu is saying, and telling us a key in the process, saying, someone as fallen as me, I was the object of mercy of the mercy avatar himself, Nityananda Prabhu. And how did that come to me? We're told that one great devotee of Nityananda Prabhu, his name was Meena Ketanaram. His little eccentric, he carried his own flute around. If someone was giving obeisances, sometimes he would climb on their shoulders. Imagine someone's giving obeisance and then someone climbs on top of you and you look, it's like, Hare Krishna, Jai Nitai. So he's unpredictable, and he comes to this place of Kaviraj Goswami and his brother-in-law or relative, and when he arrives, the relative is worshiping the deity, doing some puja, and oh, I'm doing puja, I don't need to acknowledge him. But Meena Ketanaram, he is like Nityananda in another form. So he's not taking it personally as an insult, but he's saying you don't show respect to Nityananda Prabhu. Not him, but for Nityananda Prabhu. And he says, what is this? The second Romaharshan Sutta? And what he's referring to is in the time of Balaram, this Romaharshan, not Sutta, Romaharshan, yeah, he was sitting on the Vyasasana giving some instructions to a group, and Balaram came and he didn't acknowledge the presence of Balaram, which would seem hard to ignore with what we've heard about Balaram. Balaram's over there and you don't even hey, Jai, Jai, Balarama ji, something, how you can ignore Balaram. And, he did that. And then we're told Balaram didn't ignore that, didn't let it go. So he picked up a big piece of kusha grass, but being that he's Baladev, he's supremely powerful, the grass, he infused it with power. It became like a javelin, a spear, and he threw it at him and hit him in the heart, killed him. He fell off the Vyasasana on the ground, dead. So, of course, that's also his mercy. It's a different type of mercy for someone who doesn't get what's going on. There's still a hope for somebody. But so Meena Ketanaram saying is this not the second Rome? So you can understand something bad is going to happen. Saying, what is this? And he's very hurt. Again, it's not false ego, it's for his Lord. So he breaks his flute and goes, and he's very upset. And so never upset. He's one of the Dwadasha Gopal, 12 principal cowherd boy associates of Nityananda Prabhu. That's who he is. He's with him in every lila, every pastime, everywhere, eternally. So Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, later he's talking to his relative and says, you don't understand what you've done. And he said, what? And he said, your thinking is guilty of the Nyai is Vedic logic. He said and there are sutras for the Nyai. He said there's a faulty logic called Ardha Kukiya Nyai, which means the false logic of half a hen. So it means the hen, the chicken, gives an egg. So someone says, I like the half that gives the egg, but I don't want to feed the face. So in logic, in Nyaya, they say, this is a fault. And he's saying, you present yourself to the world ostensibly as a devotee of Sri Chaitanya Dev. You say, you're presenting yourself in the world in that way. He said, but everyone who knows anything about Mahaprabhu knows how dear, there's no one more dear to him than Nityananda Prabhu. In fact, who was it? Either Srivas or Advaita? Srivas. He once gave dandavats to Mahaprabhu first in the presence of Nityananda, and Mahaprabhu said, this is unacceptable. You don't understand my nitai. You always must, we always say nitai Gauranga. So Nityananda first, and then you can approach me. And it was a higher devotee. We understand it's Leela, it's to teach everyone. But we cannot possibly understand how dear Nityananda Prabhu is to Mahaprabhu. And if we think, as we've told in Guru Maharaj's line of thought, Balaram's the first other than Krishna. And so you would think, Krishna's first other than himself, so if we want to say so-called expansion, you would think, well, that person, they would be very much like Krishna. And that's true. Balaram is considered, for how we say, all intents and purposes, equal to Krishna. It's negligible, the difference. But what's interesting is, he's not in the mood of Krishna. He turns to Krishna and he wants to offer himself in service. So it says, Ekala Ishwara Krishna Arsa Britya. That verse, it says there's one Ishwara, Supreme Controller Krishna, like in the Brahma Samhita. Ishwara Parama Krishna Sachidananda Vigraha Anadir Adir Govinda Sarva Karana Karnam. This Balaram, who's Krishna's equal in every way imaginable, but looks a little different than Krishna. He only wants to serve Krishna. He's madly in love with Krishna and only wants to serve him. Why is his name like Shesh or Ananta? It means Ananta. He has unlimited ideas how to serve Krishna. And Shesh means the ultimate end is devotion to Krishna and service to Krishna. He expresses that. Right? And he, with his thousands of heads as Ananta Shesh, is eternally glorifying Krishna. But how much does he love Krishna? I'm told he is the chair, expands himself, chair, garments, sacred thread. not that. Where's it? Sacred thread, his cushion, his pillow, when Vishnu lies down on Shesha, his bed. Guru Maharaj says, remember, what type of infinite is Krishna? His bed is infinite. So the infinite is lying on a bed of infinite. And I thought, there are love poetry and songs where one lover, usually the male, they're expressing towards the female saying like, I want to be the ground that you walk on. You know, and we think, oh, you know, it's like a sweet, poetic, romantic sentiment. But in Balaram, it's actually achieved. It goes beyond poetry. He is the ground that Krishna walks on. The loving soil that he is the chair that Krishna said. He has become the clothes that are adorning Krishna. This is how much he loves Krishna and wants to be with Krishna, and how much Krishna wants to be with him. We're told when, we were talking about when Nityananda Prabhu appeared and Birachandrapur, and how much beloved he was by his father Hadai Pandit, his mother Padmavati, that he, on the plea of one sannyasi who needed an assistant, he goes touring the holy places. But we're told that really he's waiting for, Nitai is waiting for Gauranga. But of course he knows he's in his early pastimes in Navadvip, as we told recently. The childhood pastimes, the pastimes of being a scholar, teacher, etc. But he's waiting like for that call, when we're going to join together again, the two of us, Krishna and Balaram, Gaur and Nitai, Gaur and Nityananda. So he's visiting holy places, he goes to Vrindavan. When he sees the place of their childhood pastimes as Krishna and Balaram, he's just so he falls to the ground in ecstasy. He's like Ganga-like tears are coming from his, he's crawling on, realize this is the house where, you know, of Nanda Bhavan and things like that. And people are astonished to see him. But at one point he says, there are no deities of Krishna here. Where's Krishna? And the response comes and they say, he's appeared in Navadvip. Oh, you know, my Lord Krishna, yes, Krishna's, but little different, same, but different. And so he starts making his way towards Navadvip. We're told, Mahaprabhu, he's in Navadvip, but like Nimai Pandit portion of the pastimes, transitioning to Gaurahari, going towards the sannyasa. But he's also, it's beyond what we can see of how much love and affection they have. He can't wait for Nityananda to come. We're told he's crying out Bap Pundarik for Pundarik Vidyanidhi, Radharani's father. But Nityananda, he's so eager, waiting for him. And he has this dream where he sees, like, we can say Balaram, Nityananda, Nityanandaram on a chariot, on Baladev's chariot, like furiously riding horses, driving towards Navadvip. So Nimai Pandit tells, was it Srivas Thakur and I think Haridas Thakur, to search, or Mukunda, I can't remember, maybe Srivas. Anyway, to search Navadvip. He's saying, an auspicious personality is coming. You know, try and find him. And they go searching. And we could say, really, they have the spiritual capacity to like GPS on Nityananda. But in this pastime, they come back empty-handed. They're going, we've searched everywhere. We even looked in like Malechas. We went because Nityananda is so unpredictable. And they go, maybe not in the house of the devotee. Who knows where he might be? And they're saying, but we couldn't find him. And when they tell that, instead of Mahaprabhu like expressing great disappointment, he's smiling mildly and says, come with me. And he takes them and they go to the Nandanacharya, his home. And think about it, like Nanda. And they go there and they find Nityananda. And Nityananda is so astonished to see the transformation of Krishna into Gauranga. And Gauranga Mahaprabhu is also astonished to see how Balaram is transformed into Nityananda. They're embracing each other, crying incessantly, having secret talks, using hand signals. They say things that no one can understand, no one can perceive. But Nityananda is just, he's thinking about those pastimes. Krishna and Balaram and the cowherd boys, how wonderful it was. And knowing his heart, Mahaprabhu tells Mukunda, who's like the greatest singer of all time, like, sing something appropriate. And he's singing either one of the, like, Barha Pidam Natabara Bapukarneo Karnikaram Bibrat Basa Kanaka Kapisam Vai Jayantim Chamalam Randran Venu Udhaya Sudhaya Puriam Gopa Vrinde Brindaranam Supadaramanam Pravishad Gita Kirti Shamam Hiranyaparidim Banamali Barha Datu Prabhala Naravesha Navartangse Vinyastam Astamitarena Dunam Abjam Karnot Utpalaka Kapola Mukab Jahasam. He's telling descriptions of Krishna and Vrindavan, and there are also descriptions that include Balaram. He's saying how beautiful he looks with the peacock feather. And Balaram is just totally enamored, and Nityananda Prabhu, hearing these descriptions of Krishna. And he's playing on his flute, and then the sound of the flute, the nectar from Krishna's lips enters the flute as he's blowing on the flute. So it's filled with this nectar, and the nectar comes streaming out of the flute, nectarizing the whole environment in the form of this divine, inconceivably beautiful sound. All the cowherd boys, they're all singing and dancing, playing their instruments. Krishna's fluting. The Braja Gopis are in the balcony, looking. Krishna, out of the corner of his eyes, is looking at Radharani and the Braja Gopis. And Balaram is there. He's singing and dancing. They all have their lunch kits from Mother Yasoda and all the cowherd ladies. And it's such a beautiful scene. The last line Guru says, Vrindaranam Swapadaramanam Pravishad Gita Kirti. And what? Inconceivable of inconceivable thing. What to speak of this scene? The earth, who's the lady? The earth, she's shivering in conjugal ecstasy due to the touch of the lotus feet of Krishna. So what is Vrindavan? And what is that place? Hearing it such, and the other one saying Krishna, he's wearing the Vaijayanti Vrindavan flower garland. He has his arm on Balaram. He likes to lean on Balaram. Other cowherd boys too, but like Balaram. And he's twirling a lotus flower. We're told the wives of the Brahmin, when the lotus flower is going like this, their hearts are going like that, and they're on the verge of fainting. They're also filled with conjugal ecstasy, like Krishna's making their hearts whirl. And he thinks it's a beautiful, happy scene. Hearing this, Nityananda Prabhu, he faints in ecstasy. And he can't believe the situation. Here they are again, but in these new divine forms. And we're told, how much does Mahaprabhu love Nityananda? He takes him in his lap. So now, Nityananda's head is in the lap of Mahaprabhu. He's like stroking Nityananda Prabhu. We're told, and Gadadhar Pandit, who is Srimati Radharani, is looking on the scene and saying, how beautiful is this? Saying, normally, Balaram is the bed. So but here is a rare instance where the Lord has defeated the devotee. Normally devotion is where the devotee defeats the Lord. Here's a very rare instance where Krishna won. He defeated him. Like, now he's the bed. How beautiful, how sweet is that? So anyone who will ignore Nityananda Prabhu, they can only have a nightmarish, bizarre fantasy about having any proper regard for Sri Krishna Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Krishna's Kaviraj Goswami, the point of the, he chastised his relative, and we're told he fell down sometime after due to this offense. And what was the offense? He did not recognize the superior position of the devotee. And that's one of the things Mahaprabhu is teaching. He's saying, Nityananda is my greatest devotee. You never overstep, disregard, circumvent the devotee to come to me. That's not realistic. It's thematically the same in Gopal Bhatta's, how is that? Like Archan, Padati, or Hari Bhakti Vilas. Anyway, that section where he's saying, Govinda Balape Radhe Prartaye Tvamahang Sada. Krishna is saying, you want connection with me? It's not my department. That's the department of whom? Govinda Balava. That means Radharani, the lover of Govinda, greatest lover of Govinda. That she arranges these things. And I thought about this, that in the world, when you're going to see like a really top level person, whether it's in corporate or governmental or like the top person, and you want to have a meeting with them, sometimes they will say like, I don't do that. You have to see my secretary. And you say, no, I can't schedule a meeting with me. You have to see my secretary. She does that. She knows everything. You see her and you get a meeting with me. I can't even tell you that. So even in this world, we have that. What to speak? In the divine world, Krishna is saying, you want to meet with me? Talk to her. She makes all these arrangements. So we're told, Guru, seen as Radharani's delegation or Nityananda's other self. This covers everything. But Kaviraj Goswami is saying, that Nityananda, I told you I'm so fallen, more sinful than Jagai and Madhai, lower than the worm in the stool. All of these things are true, I'm saying, no doubt. But Preme Mata Nityananda Kripa Avatar. Nityananda, he's the mercy avatar. He is intoxicated with Krishna Prem. And just like a man who's intoxicated, when they're drunk, saying, Uttam Adam, who's high, who's lower, a nice person, a not so nice person, a supremely qualified, totally unqualified. They're not distinguishing. They're so intoxicated and enjoying the beverage they're drinking, they just say like, you're drinking with me. Now you're going to drink what I drink. I want everyone to drink what I'm drinking. And he's saying, so Nityananda being intoxicated with Krishna Prem, he's mercifully sharing that divine nectaring substance with everyone. And so Kaviraj Goswami is saying, this is how my good fortune came to me. That evening I went to sleep, and then the dream, Nityananda was there. And he said, and he was deeply intoxicated with Krishna Prem, chanting, Krishna, Krishna, and rolling back and forth, staggering in his intoxication. He said there were bees humming around his garland. He was surrounded by his eternal associates, and he said, Krishna Das, now you go to Vrindavan, and there all your heart's desires will be fulfilled. So Kaviraj Goswami said, it's because of the mercy of Nityananda Prabhu and Nityananda Prabhu alone that I was given entrance in the Vrindavan. I went to Vrindavan. There, this inspiration came down to me to present Charitamritam. The Madan Mohan deity certified, as did all the other senior devotees, and therefore I've humbly taken up this work. So when I was in, is it Nova or Novosibirsk? Novosibirsk. There, and it was like 30 below, there, and with Malini and her mother. What was her mother? Leela Shakti?
Yes.
Huh? Yes. And I'm looking out the window. It's minus 30, and there's like just snow and ice everywhere. You may have seen this yourselves. And that's why I say Russia in the wintertime looks like Svetadweep, because everything's white. I mean, when you have like the good snow and everything, it's very beautiful. And I was looking out the window, and I was thinking about this, and Guru was saying, negativity is the wealth of the Vaishnava, and that's where their power comes from. And I thought, oh, and I saw on the internet, they talk about superconductors. And they say there are certain ceramics, when you take them towards absolute zero, which is around minus 350, okay, any scientists or kids who are like good at, science, right? It's around minus 350, called absolute zero. So we know negative 30 is pretty cold. But think about absolute zero, minus 350. The ceramic now has zero resistance to electrical current, and they achieve a state of what they call superconductivity. They can float, they can do all kinds of things. So I thought, this is what Guru Maharaj is saying. The humility of the Vaishnavas is so great, it takes them to that level of absolute zero, where their ego has zero resistance to Radharani's suggestion and the suggestion of Guru and Vaishnav, Sadhu and Shastra. They become superconductors of that divine current. Right? So they're empowered with Shaktavesh-like qualities. So that the depth of that negativity is not low self-esteem, but what it tells us is how high is his estimation of Mahaprabhu, Krishna, these pastimes, that he's really the substantial person to be the conduit through which these divine pastimes are expressed in the world.